Hi. Hey. Hello.
And now, our feature presentation.
It's Sunny, and by golly do I love this film so much. I've always been a fan of the studio Pixar since as far back as I can remember. One of the very passionate and wonderfully imaginative film studios out there with so much love and care put into their films. One of the studios that helped me on my way into the love for film I still have today. This film for today is by far their best example of that love and care. Without further ado, let's analyze why this film is such an animated gem. Writer and director Andrew Stanton conceived WALL-E during a lunch break with fellow Pixar writers John Lasseter, Pete Docter, and Joe Ranft. In 1994, the early days of the studio, when they were all brainstorming ideas after near completion of Toy Story, which these ended up being A Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, and Monsters, Inc., Stanton asked, what if mankind had to leave Earth and somebody forgot to turn off the last robot? After many years, Stanton found his idea of a lonely robot very strong and designed it further, making this robot, WALL-E, instantly understandable and sympathetic by designing him as a waste collector, which brings in a sense of low status. He also liked the imagery of a planet that was pretty much a garbage wasteland. Stanton and Docter developed the film as Trash Planet, but struggled with how they wanted to progress the story, instead directing another Pixar release, Monsters, Inc., in the meanwhile. Eventually, the concept of WALL-E finding a planet because of his life as the sole inhabitant of a deserted world reminded Stanton of a plant growing among pavements. Before turning their attention to other projects, eventually the idea of WALL-E falling in love was the perfect progression for the story, showcasing it as a necessity from loneliness. Stanton finally, after so long, began writing WALL-E during the completion of Finding Nemo. Eventually, Stanton and a few other Pixar creatives created a story reel of the first 20 minutes of the film, leaving Lasseter and Steve Jobs, yes, that's Steve Jobs, impressed, officially beginning a development of the film, leading to many different concepts before finally being fully completed for the world to adore, and for me to express this film's beauty. WALL-E, in basic human words, is just beautiful. Everything about it, down to the last detail, is true artistic perfection. The model and overall character designs for every character are truly creative and unique. Even the standard human designs do a great job at detailing space's effect on the human body, portraying everyone as overweight, both in scientific value and detailing the progress of society, but still allow them such animated expression and charm. I'm also a big fan of Otto's design, a very clear homage to the classic 2001 A Space Odyssey. Generally, all the robot designs are great and feeling so adorable yet futuristic and with their own unique flavor to their aesthetic. Best represented, of course, our main duo, WALL-E and Eve.
Eva.
No, WALL-E, it's Eve, not Eva. No, it's Eve. Okay, fine, I'll say it's Eva, you adorable little son of a bit. I love how Eve has such a clean yet still feminine life to her overall perfect design, yet the opposite to WALL-E's very rusted and old architecture. Architecture. But it really allows their love even despite their opposite differences. I should also mention the great environment and background work, how the ship really feels so dystopian and overly capitalistic, contrasted to the very apocalyptic and lonely wasteland of Earth. And the sound design is also such perfection, how everything has its own unique quirk. I love how sometimes fast yet subtle the overall movement and keyframing can be. Despite being robots, every single frame and motion is so rightfully planned out to feel so robotic and yet so human. So much life is given to these characters and it's downright incredible. The score as well, both a mix-up of original compositions and licensed songs, never once feeling consistent. It all rolls in well to perfectly give the right sense of adventure, emotion, and overall aesthetic. The art style is also great. Oddly enough, on Earth, WALL-E kind of has the same vibes as the video game Fallout, with its very apocalyptic wasteland environment, gets such an old school polish to it all. But within space and on the ship, it feels so alien to us in contrast to its more clean and somewhat rightfully bland, overwhelming, dystopic, capitalistic technical vibes. All this character is given to the overall animation and presentation of the film, but also to, well, funnily enough, the characters. We have a small array of characters here, and yet everyone has such texture to their writing. One thing I wanted to get out of the way quick is that the tiniest of background characters are given so much life. From the robots to the humans to the most minimal of actions, everybody has a genuine character across this film, from helping others out or their creative technique, and that's just a layer to the film I must applaud. To the actual central cast though, there's John and Mary, who are just two ordinary human beings that have a role to play in how them being awoken from the sort of mind-controlling capitalistic system on the Axiom showcases the very pleasure and beauty of basic human interaction and nature. Despite their roles being so small, their greater meaning means so much to the core of the film. Then the central supporting characters, Otto and Captain McCrae, who are a great narrative and symbolic purpose. Otto being the perfect villain, how he's just pure robotic, the complete opposite to our band of very personality-filled machines, and is pure capitalistic and against change and always to formality. Contrast to McCrae, who serves his duty as a captain, but over time clearly is tired and numb to the same corporate routine every day, until when the plot gets going, he grows a sense of nostalgia to the former state of Earth, now dedicated with a true responsibility, desire, and purpose to resurrect Earth, and he's just a really genuine and charismatic character. But how can we forget our two iconic leads? Cockroach. Nah, just kidding, but I love that little guy. Nah, talking Wally and Eve. These two kill me, but one of the best film couples ever, I swear. Independently, Eve is a very strong and cool character with her very slick and clean, polished, techno look to her design, but having the traits and presentation of a very fond and compatible girl, juxtaposed to Wally, who is a very rusted, dirty, and busted up tiny little machine that is so freaking adorable and has so much life, energy, and will to him, who has the portrayal of a very naive and young boy. Together, they are just so lovable, with Wally's sweet gestures and Eve's very straightforward yet supportive nature, and you can't help but not get enough of them. Even the sound design and voice acting, Alyssa Knight, Ben Burt, are incredible for making them sound robotic yet so full of life. I love me some characters that really have no dialogue and yet have such personality. Like, anybody who's seen this movie, just they recognize how they talk, and I think that's just incredible. Even more than the characters who do talk, and it's just genuinely incredible, which also applies to the one of the most unique and creative scripts for a kids animated film I've probably ever seen. Of course, this film has been analyzed to death, and there are dozens of complex concepts and themes presented in this film that are, of course, I won't change anything to really stir up the conversation, except for one thing. Yes, this film is a clear metaphor for capitalism. How humans are portrayed as foolish and helpless, centering around how capitalism is based on human interest rather than a communal need. Consumerism with how the humans abandoned Earth for their own consumer appetites, not taking into consideration sustainability. Technology has become so advanced that no longer do humans focus on necessity, rather the unnecessary tools of life. Surprisingly, religion plays a part too in how you can examine Wally and Eve as well, Adam and Eve. But we all know this already. What I wish to tackle is the concept of loneliness, compatibility, love. Wally is just this humble robot who's the last thing left on Earth, alongside his friendly cockroach, taking what remains of all human records and examining upon this brilliantly utilized clip of "It Only Takes a Moment" from Hello, Dolly. How all Wally wants is to not feel alone. And then one day, Eve shows up. He can't help but be fascinated by her, want nothing more than to be with her, and to her, all she's assigned to do is her mission. Until eventually, she sees things the way Wally does. She sees the true discovery of Earth. Not resources, not technology, not even a plant. She sees life. She sees Wally. But over the film, right as she sees Wally, Wally starts to disappear. They both fight to save everyone else, to give them a chance to progress and save what's left of Earth. And just as it seems Wall-E is no longer, back to a simple trash compactor, it's that love they share, it's the life they share, that brings him back. That in the end, what makes everything worthwhile isn't necessity, isn't progression, isn't even love. It's life. In that loneliness, eventually, you'll find the one who will show you the beauty of life. I already said what I had to say. Wall-E is an incredible film for being above and beyond most of the standard children's animated picture into a film with surprisingly very analyzed and complex concepts from capitalism, religion, and many others in its very heartfelt story examining loneliness, love, and life through its truly revolutionary animation and unforgettable characters that touched all our hearts, that held our hands. So long, farewell, and goodbye.
And that is all that love's about.
And we'll recall when time runs out
That it only took a moment